SmashFactor.
Ripping driver, going for it. Oh my goodness. How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. That is beyond long.
Look at this, he's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess, hello world, huh?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the SmashFactor. Episode 90, the RSM Classic, our final full-fledged podcast of 2019. As we mentioned last week, we will have some, Tambo and I are going to do some educational, in-depth pods. Some will be free, some will be for the premium members only, but we'll have more on that as we get through the end of the football season. I'm not going to lie, kind of looking for a little break of the golf season. Not only just because it's been a little bit of a grind, football and golf, which that's part of the deal, but well, this week we almost get a full tournament, 150-something guys. We get Shot Tracker back, but we get a 2-course rotation Thursday, Friday. Plantation course does not have Shot Tracker, but the weekend will have it. So 3/4 of the way of a full tournament. And then we'll get around to January and have kind of a little bit of up and down with some course rotation tournaments. Tournament of Champions will be, a 30-man, 35-man field, something like that. I'm already getting the routine of regular full field tournaments, Shot Tracker tournaments, deep dive, stuff like that. But I think the break will be good. We get about 5 weeks off, I believe, after this week before we prep and get ready for the Tournament of Champions. We will be debuting our golf tools, the premium version, that week. So I'm looking forward to a lot of that. More on that as we get through the podcast. As always, rate and review us on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. The Honda Classic giveaway is up on the site, gupscorner.com/challenge for all the information. If you are not a member yet, this is the time to get in. It's similar to our Blue Jack National giveaway last year. I would say, I don't know, this one's probably going to be a lot better. Blue Jack was amazing, but it was isolated because we could only get 4 of us on there. It was a great time, but I think we have 9 or 10 of the team members committed, plus others in the industry like Feinberg, Kenny Kim, which is a part of Gups Corner, but those guys are going to be there. I think Nelson Cut Sweats, I saw him commit on Twitter the other day. So it's going to be a fun-loaded field that Saturday. Not to mention you're there the whole week if you want to be there with us. We got a private house already reserved. We have tickets for every day of the tournament. Some days we're going to play golf, then go, and then obviously we're going to play the DFS Open. So it's going to be a fun time. So make sure if you're not a member to go check that out. If you are a member, you guys already know we put out the ways for you guys to get your tickets as well. Member or non-member now, both can get 7 tickets. There's 6 ways to earn tickets. If you get all 6 entries, you get a bonus one giving you a 7th entry. We will draw it Super Bowl Sunday and announce it on Monday's pod. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but that's how that'll work out. So go check out gupscorner.com right now. Now is the time to buy. This is our last week of our free preview of the golf tools if you want to check it out. NBA Slack has been absolutely on fire. MLB is going to be amazing next year. College football has been crazy. I've had a couple of pretty solid weeks. I've made the College Football World Championship tournament now. I have a few tickets into the main event, the 333, here in a couple of weeks as well. The Slack's been fired up. Not only the main slate, but there's enough back and forth in there that we've actually done pretty well on the mini slates, the 2:30, the 6 o'clock, and even last week my best slate was the 9:15 3-game slate. So tons of action that goes on in the Slack. I can't overstate or talk about enough how much valuable the Slack is in general, especially for the DJing guys out there. We're going to cover as much as we can of every single sport, but there's enough people in there that if you just want someone to talk, if you're going to play, a small slate or a niche slate in a certain sport, you can certainly do that and have some camaraderie back and forth with the guys. All the golf is obviously covered and showdown, and I've developed some showdown rankings that'll go out now, and they will continue to go out as we get our premium tools out that allow back and forth there. But basketball, some guys will play the main slates, which we have covered, and then others tonight, there may be like a late game slate, and you can pick up valuable information there. So it's always a great time. Be sure to check out our gear. I got the shirt on tonight. Combo package gets you a ticket into the drawing for the Honda Classic. That is the second easiest way to get in, maybe the third. The easiest is if you're already a member, an annual member, you get a ticket already. So you don't have to do nothing. So that's probably the easiest if you're already an annual. If you're a monthly now, you can upgrade to annual and you automatically get a ticket. If you're not a member, obviously buying the annual package gets you one. And then rate and review us on iTunes is the cheapest way. It's free. Go do it. You're in, but you do have to be a member to win. So it really, like, you can't just go rate and review us on iTunes and you get in the entry and you can win it. You have to be a member of Gups Corner, an annual member of Gups Corner to win the drawing. That's just part of the, criteria we have. So make sure you're a member, rate and review us, buy a shirt and a hat. You get 3 entries right there. You're already halfway home to the 6 entries, and then the upgrade to the 7th if you do all of them. I missed the listener league last week. That was my fault. I had a lot going on and forgot to put it out. Then it got too late. We already had the football up. I think the Slack channel kind of did one late, but I do have one up now. I've already posted in Slack, and it'll be in the description of the pod tonight, so you can check that out. 100 man. Let's fill that up quick and end the season off well. The winner of the listener league this week will get a combo package, which means you also get a ticket. So doesn't matter if you buy it or not. So if you get this combo package this week, you get a ticket into the drawing. So that's pretty awesome. This pod will probably go pretty, not quick, but I mean, it's only me. As you guys know, last week, I'm going solo for now. It's been a crazy day. I don't think pricing came out to almost like 4 o'clock my time. So probably 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 my time, 4:30 Eastern. So pretty late in the day. Hopefully that's not a sign of to what's coming when we get to the main season. I think a lot of it has to do with the late finishes, stuff like that. But so a little bit later tonight than normal. Appreciate you guys being patient. If you're not watching live, then you'll hear it in the morning. We are here for the RSM Classic. I'm going to give a quick preview like I will every week. To get your full deep dive, make sure you check out my partners over at Fantasy DGen Podcast, Kenny Kim and Tambo. Kenny Kim is writing our course article, and then he has a few enhancements to it throughout the week, especially Wednesday. I know he's adding some stuff for the premium members only. So you can check out the course history article on the website if you're a member. He gives a brief preview of the course history on the pod, so be sure to check that out. He always has a lot more detail than I will have at that. I don't say it's not my strong suit. I just putting all the time into the other side of the models and rankings and all that. So he is taking that over for Bucks, I still maintain is one of the best in the industry at doing that. But I know he's doing well with the family. He will join me on the Sure in the spring as a guest podcast host with me every once in a while. So looking forward to that. There is 2 courses this week, as I mentioned, the Seaside and Plantation. 3 rounds at Seaside, 1 at Plantation. So the guys will play either Thursday or Friday at Plantation. There is not shot tracker for that round. So that's kind of a negative. Historically, it has been the easier side of the 2. But this year it opened October 18th. I'll get to that in a second. I'll go with Seaside first. Seaside's the harder. It's a par 70, 7,000 yard, wider fairways than normal. It's a tough further 2. It will have shot tracker. Kind of similar to last week. Ball strikers course. You don't have to be long off the tee, so your Kisner types, Orion Armour, people like that, they can definitely be in play here as well as anybody. So you just don't have to – it's not a bomber's course by any means. Almost anybody can win out here. There is a narrative of there's a lot of golfers that live around the area or in Georgia or play this course a lot. So, a lot of that information will be out as we roll into Wednesday. Plantation was remodeled by the Davis Love Group. It just opened October 18th, I believe. So literally a month ago today. So it went through almost a year-long, if not a year-long remodel. It actually is shorter than it was even last year. The more yardage I could find, so I'm interested to see what Kenny could find because I haven't talked to him yet. was quoted by Davis Love as at 6,671 yard par 72, which would make it extremely short. But I'm interested to see if that's accurate or not. Well, I'll definitely have it, I'll update it on Twitter or something if it's not. But even last year was a short par 72, which that's the reason why it played a lot easier than Seaside. So I think no matter what, it's going to play a little easier historically, or not historically, in the future. The one thing I will say about this year is being that it just opened, we got a guy in Slack, a really, really well-educated golf, Steve Story. He gives us a lot of information. He knows a lot of people in the industry. He said, as we all know, when you open up brand new greens, they're going to be hard. So it's going to be hard to make them hold and stuff like that. So I would imagine it playing harder than it normally has, or that it will when you move on 2 or 3 years down the road. Davis Love was quoted as saying it'll be a classic course with traditional architect, some peak dye characteristics, more playable than before and enjoyable. So that kind of, it tells me challenging but fun is kind of how I when I was reading through a lot of the articles, trying to get a grasp of how they were going to redesign it. It'd be interesting to see it and kind of see how I don't know how much TV coverage we'll get on it, being that it's the offsite course, but whatever we can. And then obviously we'll be able to see what kind of scores are shot out there. Weather-wise, cooler mornings from what I can see. Very nice Thursday and Friday overall. Should get up into the 70s, low 70s, maybe mid 70s. Potential rain Saturday, but it looks later. So even if it moves up, I really don't see it affecting Thursday or Friday. Hopefully we can get a full 4-day tournament in Sunday, normal time. I don't see it being much, even if the rain comes. I think it'll be minute, very minimal impact to the tournament as it stands today. Obviously, we'll update that by Wednesday if something comes. Currently, I really don't even see wind being that much of an issue, which in the past, when this place has played quote unquote hard for the RSM, it's been because the wind picks up. But I don't even see it getting over 10 miles an hour hardly at all until maybe Saturday. So I think it's going to be high scoring. I think I was pretty close last week on the cut and the final. I think you're going to be right there in that same ballpark, especially with the T65. And we got 100. When I pulled the data, it was 155 guys. I don't know how many Monday qualifiers or stuff like that there is, but let's call it 160 guys. Only 65 are getting through, or T65. So I could see -4, -5 even being the cut. You're going to have to score here. So I would keep that in mind. I don't think, unless something just proves wrong with Plantation, I don't think the grinder is going to be in play here. I think you need some go-low guys, some guys familiar with the area for sure. Obviously, there's a little neutral factor there being a new quote-unquote course with Plantation, but we've seen this cut. We've seen this cut be as high as -6 before. So these guys can tear this place up historically. I think the offset to that is being hard greens. Maybe they run off or short, and you got a little more up and down going on. So I'm going to stick at about a -3, -4 cut line with the winner at -21, being that 3 of the rounds are going to be on the course they're very used to. This week, I'm looking at approach is probably the number one you're here. Approach proximity is going to be important. Green and reg, obviously. I don't think many off the tee stats are going to be that much important. They are, if you want to bring them in. Definitely, I would look at accuracy, if anything, off the tee. Greens and reg, birdie or better. Anytime you're going to be in a high teens, low 20 type number, you got to look at some birdie or better, birdie or better gain or birdies or any of that kind of scoring, DK scoring stats. And then obviously ball striking is always a staple for myself. If you're new to the podcast, I say we, but myself, I'm going to go Dirty Dozen style. I have 4 sets of 3 picks and then a round table where I kind of hit. Being that it's just myself, I'm going to go 10-ish guys each week and kind of just some guys hit some high notes that didn't fit above in these top 4 categories. They are 3 picks each, 9K and above, 7,600 to 8,900, 7,500 or less. And then I give a flop, a fade, and the sleeper for the week. That gives me 12 picks. And then I'll hit up a round table with, let's call it 8 to 10 to kind of get a good digestion of the field. There's obviously a ton of other pods out there that I recommend and enjoy that go a lot more in depth. I think one advantage I'm going to try to have going into 2020 here is not only to keep this format, because we've had a ton of positive reviews on it, people like it, but to also spin in as we get into the new season, some strategy on the week. So take the the tournament, the field, some historic stats. We'll bring in the T65 stats now that we have a pretty good amount after this week. I'm going to do a lot of research on that in the off season, quote unquote, and kind of run through, hey, this week, I'm going to have a standard set that I would normally play. And then I'm thinking about some ideas. I'm working on some stuff, and maybe because a lot of people focus on the money spent, which I don't necessarily think's, relevant, but even if it is, maybe I'll go, if I got $20, here's what I'd be in. If I got 100, here's what I'd be in. If I got 300 a week, here's what I would be in this week. Meaning, like last week, I was god awful only because I did the bullet. I decided late Wednesday. I had a long week. I was sick as a dog all the way until I'm still taking antibiotics, so still fighting it. But I went ahead and did the single bullet, not because I didn't want to grind through 100. But I was like, I got a pretty good feeling. And it didn't turn out terrible, but I got 5 of 6. I had Doc Redmond, who I seem to be dying on the sword on. And in that type of event last week, I think there wound up being 82 guys make the cut. You can't have 5 of 6. You're dead. You're dead to rights. So it's just, if you're going to play bullet, you got to be willing to live and die with the high risk, high reward type stuff. Whereas my player pool was solid. Harris English was up there. Tada was up there. I mean, I had a lot of guys up there that in a 20, 30, 40 type build, I would have had in my pool. It doesn't mean I would have won by any means. I'm not saying that, but it definitely would have been probably a little bit better, but it'd been a little more spread out, and not as much high upside. So I decided to go bullet this week. More than likely, I'm going MME. I just think when you got a T65 in a 160-man field, you got a new course, you got a 2-course rotation. Some guys coming in with some form, some not. You got a higher variation of course history in here, just because the guys live there. They play Seaside a lot. It's one of the more attractive courses to go to. It's on my bucket list to get to soon. I think it may be difficult to try to pick 6 of 6 this week. And so my strategy this week may be, hey, if you're a $20 player a week, play the $1.20 max and just practice that. Get used to building a pool, building that. So for me, I may put 50 or 100 in the $8 and maybe still do one bullet, do like the 200 single, so that you can get a little bit of both. And if you feel like, hey, I got a good 6 of 6 I like. One thing I want to preach next year, definitely, I've been doing a little bit in football, is don't lock into your contest or your strategy before you fill out the week. Now with golf, it's a little different because, I mean, here, would we get the pricing 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, and we literally got a lock in 48 hours. We're going to be wrapping up the podcast or the live emergency 9 and doing football. And then we got, 3 or 4 hours before most of us go to bed. And then we wake up at 6 a.m. on the East Coast, which would be like, I'm an hour behind that, and they're locking it. Right. And so very quick turnaround. So, it's a little more rapid fire than NFL. Where NFL, I think guys go reserve their contests and everything Monday. And I'm like, you can't even digest the pricing, the player pool, how you feel, the injuries. They're not going to feel that fast in football. And so we're trying to practice some of that in the community. But golf, they will feel a little bit, but not here during the fall swing. I mean, they're going to feel, but you can kind of get an idea what you like. But, spend some time tonight or even tomorrow on your lunch break or whatever, and kind of go, how do I feel about this week? Do I feel really solid about 4 or 5 guys? Well, if you do, then 1 to 3 max it and call it good. If you're like, man, I can see a lot of different ways of this turning out, well, then you may want to do a 10 type lineup build, 20, 50, whatever, the bankroll fits. And then even, the mini max and stuff they have now, you can still do 50 in a quarter, and you're, if your bankroll is $25, there you go. So, there's lots of ways around it. And that's what we're going to try to preach on here, just to be a little bit different than the, as this podcast community grows, and we love it. We love DFS golf growing. It's one thing we're excited about the Honda Classic, to meet some people there. So excited for that. Let's get straight to what you guys want to hear about. I don't mean to get off track there. I just want to kind of give you a preview of what I'm looking for next year. But 9K or above. First one that pops off the page to me is Billy Ho, 11,000. I'm interested to see how much he's talked up. Obviously, Webb will be talked up quite a bit this week. He's number 1 on my stat model. Webb he's got pretty good history here. I think he either lives on this course or around it. Don't quote me on that. I'm not, those kind of details aren't my forte, but I The one thing I don't like about Webb is that he hasn't played at all in the last 6 that I have, going back to the Houston Open. And I don't know if I like a rusty Webb. So I like Billy a little bit cheaper. Stats are okay in my model, nothing great. Actually, probably way below great, but man, his form is coming in great. He has 64th at the CJ Cup, a 6 at the Zozo, a 24th at the EGC, and then at the WGC, and then an 8 at Mayakoba. So, coming in really great form. He's only played here once in the last 5 years, and he got a second though. So I like that. He's pretty high on the putting split model for me. Long-term putting, he's great as well this week. So I like Billy Ho. My next one is Kisner, which I know he'll be chalk, but I decided I was like, I'm either going to go Kisner or Webb as far as kind of the chalky up top. I decided to go Kisner. We'll see how that plays out. I could easily flip-flop that by the time the week ends, but stats is pretty decent, top 20. His form isn't the best, but he's at least played. So I give him that advantage over Webb. I mean, he had T28 at the WGC, which we know that isn't great in that field, but it's still better than half. A 66 at Zozo. And then last week he made the cut, but didn't do much on the weekend and shot, he's T76 overall. But he's got great course history here. A 4th, a 1st, a 4th, a 7th. One missed cut 3 years ago. We know this is his style of golf. He's a Georgia boy. 9,800. I don't mind him at all this week. I think he can, any given week, he can show up and win and compete. And this is his style, of course. He doesn't have to worry about bombing it off the tee or anything like that. So I like Kisner over Webb as that was my pivot there. Those two was not pivot like Tambo, but pivot like trying to figure out which one of the chalkier plays I wanted to throw in there. Then the next one for me is Aaron Wise. Pretty green across the board for me. He did miss the cut last week. I don't think he necessarily burned anybody, but maybe something to gain a little leverage on. He was T3 at Bermuda. Obviously a pretty weak field, relatively, but I like that. He's only played here once. It was 2 years ago. And when I say only played here, I go back to 5 years history is all I look at as far as course history, recent form on that course alone. He got a T13. That was 2 years ago. He didn't play here last year, but I like that he at least played here. He's average of the field. I don't think I'll get there because my builds right now are looking to be a little more probably balanced. I definitely will play, Billy Ho or Webb. If Billy Ho becomes a chalk of the century, then I can move off of him and go Webb. I don't think both of those guys will be chalky. So I want to play one of those guys. And then, if I was going to go Kisner or Wise, I would go Kisner. But, if Wise is half the ownership or something, I certainly don't mind taking that leverage as well. So that's kind of how I'm thinking through that top range right now. And so I decided to go with Wise, just kind of going off of gut instinct on a Monday night. Next tier, 7,600 to 8,900. First up, Chris Kirk. I liked him last week coming off. I talked about him Wednesday night with Tambo, coming off of the, going sober, being on his alcohol deal. The story I posted I thought was tremendous. I thought it was a gritty type mentality for him, a very self-aware type response that he took. He seems focused. I played him, but he's a guy that I would have been way overweight on in the MME style, and I wish I would have went that way. Hindsight, but hindsight's always 20/20. I definitely like him at 90-1. He's my free play of the week, 90-1. Chris Kirk, great history here: a T4, a T18, a T4, and a T46 with a missed cut in there in 2016. One thing I will note is that I think 2016 was the year of kind of the crazy wins, and you'll see a lot of guys that have great history here potentially miss a cut. I haven't noted to go back and look because I hadn't had time, but I want to say there may even been a draw advantage there because I'm seeing, like him and Kisner, both tremendous history, but they both missed a cut in 2016. And there's like 4 or 5 or 6 of those I noticed tonight when I was trying to do some research. I haven't deep dived on that. If I find it, or maybe one of these other guys will get on top of it, I'll let you guys know. But I like Chris Kirk. Russell Henley, I don't mind going back there. Missed a cut last week, probably burned some people. So, and he missed a cut last year here, but before that, 3 straight top 10s, a 4th, a 6th, and a 10th. So overall, pretty great history. Stat wise, he's top 6 for me, $8,500. definitely like that. Before the Mayakoba, he hadn't played since the Houston Open, where he T61. So not like great recent form, but at least he's been swinging the sticks a little bit overall. So I like Henley. And last in this range, I like Harmon, $7,900. Has played here the last 5 years. Mix and match results, a 41st, then he missed 2 cuts in a row. He was part of the missed cut in 2016 as well. Then a 4th and a 32nd. So I think overall he's good. He's top third or maybe even top third for sure in the putting model for me. Long term, he's 29th in the entire field. Stat wise, he's 5th. So I like that. He made the cut last week, but didn't do much at all. T62. But in this price range, this kind of guy I'm looking for this week at 7,900. I definitely like him. Our third tier, 7,500 or less. I'll start off with Stanley. He is number one overall in my model. Missed the cut last week at T21 at Houston. He hadn't played here the last 2 years, but in 2015, 2016, he was T21 and T33. So pretty good, top fourth, at least in the field in course history. Stat wise, he's number 2. Across the board, he's just great. So he's all green. Recent form, he's 26. Recent rolling stats, he's my number 1. And rolling putting, he's number 13. So all in, he's my number 1 ranked player value-wise. At $7,200, I like Kyle Stanley this week. I believe he was really popular last week. I can go check. I almost put him on my team, but he missed the cut. So I think that could be a good guy to jump on if he burned some people last week, especially. My next guy in this range, 7,500 or less, is Robert Streb. Kind of stood out to me. I don't know if he'll be, extremely popular or not. But at $6,800, he's played here the last 5 years as well. He won it in 2014. Then he had a 25th, a 57th, a 32nd with a missed cut in 2017. He's had 3 events here in the fall swing, made the cut all 3 times, a 28th at Houston, a 35th at Bermuda, and then a 14th at Mayakoba last week. Not popping and crazy on the stats, but he's good, pretty much everywhere. A little bit on the downside proximity, and I worry about a guy like him as far as you start talking about scoring in the birdie range. But being that he's played here 5 straight years, I think obviously it shows he knows this course, he knows the land, he won it, so he's got the game to get it done. $6,800, that's a guy I can go down there low, especially if I want to try to get, start a horse show lineup with him or something like that in a single max build, or it doesn't matter anywhere. He's a guy to get you some value. My last guy in this range is David Hearn. He is 8th in my model overall, 7th in course history. He's played it 3 of the last 4 years, never missed a cut, never finished worse than 17th. He's got a 9th, didn't play in 16, a 17th, and a 15th. So great history here. He got an 8th at Bermuda, a 41st last week, top 22 in my stat model across the board. Great approach player, great iron player, great proximity. Another guy you can kind of worry about when you're talking about, can he go out there and score? But I would say that he's top 20 here all 3 years, that he can obviously get around this course well. So his traditional scoring may not show as well as what he can do on a course like this. So course fit wise, I definitely like David Hearn this week, $7,000. 4th tier is a flop, a fade, and a sleeper. The flop, if you're new to the pod, is the guy that I just think won't return value for whatever reason. Just pure dollar spent versus points returned. Fade is a guy you're fading because of, course history, recent form, ownership projection, any kind of reason. Just had a baby, didn't have a baby. I mean, all kinds of things you could think of. Just any reason you want to fade a guy. And then sleeper is our best play, $6,900 or less on the week. So a flop, my flop for me is Kuchar. Only because he's 10,006. He finished 14th last week, but he's just done okay here. He's made the cut 3 out of 4 years, never finished better than 22nd. So a 29th, a 25th, a 22nd, missed cut in 16. He could have been part of that. I really got to research. That's bugging me on that 2016 deal. Stat wise, and what I'm looking at, he just doesn't come in here with terrific stats under the, and plus he finished the season off not great. So that's factoring in, but I just see it as a spot. He didn't start real well in the tournament. He I think it was Saturday. Well, of course, we had the whole mix up. Round 4, I believe, which could have been Sunday going into Monday morning. I think he had 6 birdies in the Eagle to get that T14. At one point, I mean, he was just, chugging along barely. He hadn't played it all. So the opposite side, I could say, he got the rust off. He finished strong late, and now he's ready to roll into this course. And he's certainly in play here. I think, he could be also high owned. And so Kuchar was kind of my flop of the week. My fade, as I mentioned earlier, is Webb, 11-6, highest guy on the board. I assume he's going to get talked up a lot. I assume he's going to pop all over everybody's model, quote unquote. And, finished third here last year. Pretty solid history overall. Maybe he doesn't get as high talked up at the 11,006, but assuming he is going to, he's out of my 5 main categories, he's first, second, third, second. And, course history is his worst at 22nd overall. So he's all there and I like him, but, I expect him to be talked up. So the only reason why I wouldn't fade him is if he's, goes under the radar for whatever reason. We'll address that Wednesday night. But that is why I'm fading him. It's not because I think he's a bad play. It's just more of an ownership move. My sleeper, Stuart Sink, $6,800, sixth in my model overall. Played here the last 5 years. First time missing the cut was last year. Before that, he had a 32nd, a 63rd, a 10th, and a 25th, which may not sound like, wowing all numbers and all finishes, but for 6,800, it's pretty solid. He putts really well on this stuff. 15th in my rolling putting ranking. Third in my recent form, although limited there because he only played the Houston, but he got ninth. Stats, he's 23rd. Course history, he's 28. So overall, I like him. Long-term stats, a little bit less fall off, but at $6,800, I just didn't even make the cut in this kind of field. T65 out of 155, 160 guys, that kind of guy makes the cut. That he can be in play. Do I expect him, which is probably why he doesn't have as high finishes, do I expect him to be able to get to the 20 type number? No, but he's got the low round potential. So, if he can finish top 20, but have a really good round and some birdies and all that, he'll return the value. So that's really just what that's all about there at 6,800. I really like him a lot this week. It's not like I think he's the best player and he's going to win it, but this is about the game we're playing, which is, DFS, whether it be FanDuel, DraftKings, Super Draft, or whatever. So that kind of rounds up my 4 tiers for the night. Some other guys that just quickly mentioned that I like. I think Mark Hubbard is going to be on everybody's radar. Made the cut last week, did well. Made the cut at Bermuda, finished second at Houston. Stat wise, limited in my model, but he's done well there. He has played here before 3 years, 14, 15, 16, maybe before that, but in mine. And he made the cut all 3 years. So that kind of piques my interest a little bit. Definitely a better player today than I think he was 3 years ago. So I think overall, at $7,000, he's a guy to keep your eye on. Jonathan Vegas, I think, is a great guy to keep your eye on here. 4th in my stat model. He is coming off 2 missed cuts of his last 3 tournaments. He did make the cut at CJ Cup, finished in 16th. I don't even know if that is a cut event, but he finished 16th, so that's still good. Played here back in 2015 with a top 25 finish, so I like him. Austin Cook can get hot at any time. He won this 2 years ago. He got an 11th last year. So as a guy that doesn't really pop anywhere for me, he seems to like this course. He's definitely one of the guys, a Kisner type, an Armour type that likes a shorter course. Finished 17th at Houston. So at $7,800, Austin Cook's another guy. Ben Taylor, just a younger guy that I think overall you can keep your eye on. Worth a flyer in the GPP type. 300 to 1. You could definitely throw a couple dollars on him or maybe an each way at $6,200. Limited size, but he, looks good. I don't think he's ever played here. 2 made cuts of his last 3 tournaments on tour. Worth keeping your eye on there for a low guy. Zach Johnson, this is a prototypical course for him. He's had 2 missed cuts in the 75th, the last 2 years, an 8th and a 7th. He did top 23 last week. So I like that he, coming in with a little bit of form. 9,000 is a little high for him, so he may go under the radar. So I kind of have him on my short list to keep an eye on. Could be a leverage play. Boo Weekly, mentioned him a few times here in the last, several tournaments. Nothing crazy, but, a T21 at Houston, a T18 at Bermuda. He has played here 3 years prior, 14, 15, 16. Stat-wise, he looks pretty good. He hasn't done anything great here, but he's at least played it at $6,600. He could be kind of coming into a new form type deal. He's a flyer option only. So if you're building 20, 40 type lineups, but he did catch my eye. Chesson Hadley, Cameron Piercy, two guys right there, 72, 7,300. Both have played here a ton in the last 5 years, almost every year. Piercy didn't play last year, but he played the 4 years before it. He's made it a cut every time. Hadley's missed 2 cuts, but 2 top 45 or 3 top 45 or better finishes. Stat wise, they finished top 20 overall for me. So I definitely like those guys. Piercy's played a little bit more recent than Hadley, but both have played in the fall swing a little bit, but not much. So that kind of worries you a little bit. But at $7,200, $7,300, keep an eye on them. Kind of round out the round table. Brian Gay is a guy I'm keeping my eye on. Brian Stewart is a guy I'm keeping my eye on. I definitely like him this week. I expect him to be talked up a little bit in this kind of course fit for him. And then our boy at the end, certainly not last, but I wanted to mention him last because I think he's close. I think he's close to that first win. T6 last week. Joel Damon, $7,600. I think the price is right. You can take a risk there. He's played the last 3 years, a missed cut in 16, then he's made the cut twice, the 49th and 37th. Looks great coming in the last 2 days. And Ryan Armour's right below him in the rankings. So two guys that are kind of staples for me. Armour's never missed a cut here since 2014. He's coming in with the 23rd and 8th and the 33rd. So good form for him. I like both those guys, 76 and 7,700 respectively, to kind of round up my round table, no pun intended there. Betting strategy, not a lot this week. I probably won't take anybody 50 to 1 or less, but the two guys I kind of marked to talk about already have. But Aaron Wise, Russell Knox, both guys that are 50 to 1 or less on the book I looked at last. That if I was going to go that low, that's probably where I would go. I don't really like the board a lot at all. I think there's some great value deeper in the field this week, and I'm going to take some flyers there. 50 to 80 to 1, I had Russell Henley and Brian Harmon as the two guys to keep my eye on. 80 to 1 to 120 to 1, Chris Kirk and David Hearn. I gave away Chris Kirk is a free bet. I've already bet it. It'll be a release to the premium members. So get that bet in. And I like David Hearn. I mentioned him earlier in the sleeper area or 7,500 and less area. Dark horse, I normally don't give much, but I think there's some dark horses this week. So that's kind of my last thoughts is, I like Stanley, Sink, Vegas, Robert Streb. I mentioned Taylor, 300 to 1, maybe, top 20 for him is a good value. So I think you can throw quite a few 100 to 1 or 120, 125 to 1, wherever they're at, out there and hope one hits. I think longer odd guys have hit here. Obviously Austin Cook 2 years ago. Those kind of guys can definitely come out of nowhere and hit. Webb, a Russell, a Kuchar, those guys can definitely win, but I think there's some value there in the mid-range this week, and that's where I'm going to kind of put my focus on. Overall, I expect a pretty good tournament. I think there's some fatigue in the golf industry overall. It's been a grind. We've been doing late nights. We've had some tournaments delayed. We've had some tournament days delayed, which throws off betting. It throws off showdowns. It's kind of been frustrating, mixed in with football and NBA kicking off. It's just kind of it's tough. It's a tough grind, but we have enough people interested that we're going to keep, we're going to grind out this week. We're going to have, assuming a normal tournament, we'll have showdowns every night. We'll have live bets every night. The Slack will be hopping, and then we get a little rest. We may do a little bonus pod for the President's Cup. Won't do much for the Heroes Challenge. If I release bets, I'll put them out, but President's Cup, we may do something just for fun. I'll definitely probably have some fun bets on that for the premium members, but pretty much going to take a rest and, working behind the scenes with ADHD on the golf tools, fine tuning those. Those are going to be amazing when they come out for the Tournament of Champions. You don't want to miss them. One thing I would say, if you become a member before then, we will give our biggest discount ever on the golf tools for our members only. It won't be broadcast anywhere. It'll just be for those guys only. So the advantage of going ahead and sign up now, become an annual member, get your ticket to the Honda, get your combo package, rate and review us. And then all of a sudden, when the golf tools come out, you're already a member and you get a deep discount off of that annual package as a premium member already. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for everybody to see the full-fledged golf tools. A lot of work's gone into them, a lot of development. It's been way longer than what some think. Josh and I have had many of conversations over the last X amount of time, well before we even officially partnered, but tossing ideas around, things that I had in my head. And I'm also working on a special partnership that includes the overall, all the tools packages. So hopefully be able to announce that here in the next week or two on football. So stay tuned for that as well. As always, join Tambo and myself Wednesday night in the chat room. On the site, JB will post it. 8 o'clock for the emergency 9, 8 Eastern, that is. At 9 o'clock, we'll do the coin flip pod. This week should be a normal week, barring I don't become sick like I did last week, crazy, which we still got it off. We got done. Saturday night, I got to check with Tambo. I know we got holidays coming up. I just need to make sure travel and all that's not in the way. We may not do the Audible this week. I know I'd start vacation, but I could still make it. Worst case, I'll be in there giving advice and all that kind of stuff. But Wednesday nights for sure, we will do our E9, give our last golf updates and all that. And then we'll roll it with the coin flip pod right after that. So that'll be exciting. I'll update you on Saturday night. On Wednesday, I'll let you know what we're going to do Saturday after I talk to Tambo. Last reminder, gupscorner.com/challenge. Check out everything about the Honda Classic. You do not want to miss getting in that drawing. It is going to be one heck of a time. Everything is provided by us, if I did not say that. You get your flight, your lodging, obviously, in our private house. If you don't feel comfortable with that, I certainly would give you a hotel, but the house is, private house for all of us to stay at. It's going to be fun. We're not going to be there that often, to be honest with you. We'll be closing down, bars at Jupiter probably more than likely if I know the guys well. You get your entry to the DFS Open paid for. You get your entry to another course, I won't mention the name yet, paid for, that we're going to play. You get your entry to all the Honda Classic all 5 days paid for, including one-day club passes to join the executive team and myself in a suite. So it's going to be awesome. Don't miss out. Spread the word. As always, feedback on this pod, much appreciated. I know it's solo. I'm going to work on some things I kind of laid out tonight, some of the ideas I have, but give me your feedback. I appreciate it. For JB behind the mic, I know Tambo and Kenny Kim will kill it tonight. Check them out in the morning. I will see you with Tambo Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Have a good week until then. Good night.
SmashFactor.